Here to judge anybody. We want to handle this with love, right? You want to tell him how his drug abuse has hurt you, maybe hurt himself. Okay, Harold, what time did you tell him to be here?
5 o'clock, but he's always late.
No, he'll be here. In 3, 2, 1.
Is this a 5 o'clock free crack giveaway?
Good evening, folks. Welcome to the MCU'S Bleeding Edge. We are live Friday night, June 20th, 2025, to discuss the 9th episode of Season 2 of Andor. Yes, we are behind, folks. We didn't go the 3 at a time like they did with Disney, but we're absolutely loving it. We're cherishing it. We are taking our time with it. So if you still are a big fan of Andor, come watch us. We enjoy you watching us. But of course, here, as always, I have my trusty co-host and fellow content man himself, Mr. Jeff S. How we doing?
I'm good, sir. I'm very proud of us, actually, for the way that we're doing Andor, that we're bucking the system, you know, in this case, you know what I mean? Like, I like to be real time with this kind of stuff at the end of the day, but the fact that we're the only, like, YouTube channel podcast that's actually still covering Andor, I think is actually kind of cool, you know, and I'm proud of that.
Excellent, excellent. And of course, popping up for the first time with us with his awesome Hollywood video background. I just love it. I absolutely love it.
Me too.
I used to go to Hollywood Video back in the day when we had movie stores. Coming in for the first time is Mark from the I Can Do This All Day podcast. How we doing, Mark?
Doing well, gentlemen. Hello there. Yeah, best job I ever had. First job I ever had. We'll never forget it. Hollywood Video. Near and dear. Near and dear. I appreciate y'all having us. Us being me, because my co-host Dan is down today. Down and out, and wishing him well as he slowly recovers. But excited to hear some opinions and to talk about Star Wars. Always on some Star Wars.
Excellent. Yes. Always a joy to talk about Star Wars, especially in this last decade of Star Wars, especially when, you know, after Disney basically bought the franchise from George Lucas and went their way with it. It's been a true interesting journey for Star Wars, most definitely. All right. So we are here talking about episode 9 of Andor, which happens to be called Welcome to the Rebellion. Directed by Giannis Metz, and of course written by Dan Gilroy. And of course, this is the 9th episode, or 21 episode overall in the Andor series. So since this is your first time here, Mark, and we haven't heard your thoughts on the previous 8 episodes, I like to give you the floor to kind of give us your thoughts on the last episodes leading up to episode 9, sir.
Yeah, I loved the way y'all put this. That you're the last podcast that's still talking about this. I'll be candid. You're the first podcast to actually get me to watch all the way up to episode 9 so far this season. Last season, Andor had so much to it, and it was very deep and layered, and it felt like we were getting so much in every episode. And while the title of this episode is Welcome to the Rebellion, I feel like it's welcome to the pace that we expected every episode to be through this series. I might be the odd man out, but I felt like, you know, it's just starting to get going. It's just starting to get going. And this is the episode where I think it really finds that true Star Wars pace. So I was excited that when given the invitation that this was the episode we were hitting, because this is where I kind of sat up and I knew where it was going to tie into the rest of the series and the mythos, and got my Rebels watching after this. Am I the odd man out? Do you guys have you guys just loved on this, or have you felt the same slight bit of drag? I ask with the idea that the hypocrisy is very strong on our podcast, so I may bounce around in my opinion a lot.
Okay. Well, myself, it definitely had a strong beginning, then a lull, and then it picked back up with the last couple episodes. So that was my thought on on this season so far. Jeff, what about you, sir?
Like I've already said, I don't want to repeat myself a lot tonight, but I thought the first 2 episodes were really not very good, to be honest with you. They were actually very subpar for Andor, compared to season 1. I thought that even though a lot of people didn't like the first couple episodes of Andor season 1, the first 3, I thought they were good. That they were a good introduction, and the first 2 episodes, especially Cassian's storyline, was just really like, what the fuck is this? So that could have been improved, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day because the show just picked up really quickly in that second set of 3 episodes, and really found its mark and its groove, so I'm loving it. I can't get enough of it, and honestly, I don't mind the slow burn.
True. Excellent.
I think I'm one of those people that I love that they're doing 12 episodes, but if you could get it done in 8 and it's tighter, give me the 8. Personally.
Gotcha. I get that simply for the fact that, each episode is around 45 minutes long, especially with an hour long, episodes in most recent years. I definitely feel that when there's too much filler episodes in a season, that tends to make it seem boring. And so then you think, well, you could have tightened up and got rid of those 2 episodes and just went directly to the next thing. So I completely understand, your aspects there. Because there's been definitely series that I've seen that I was like, you totally could have done without that episode. You could have done without that episode. So yeah, most definitely. I think that it's one of those things that, they were trying to get as much out of this as they could because they knew this was going to be the final season. And so they gave us a little extra, which they could have probably trimmed it down a little bit, most definitely. And I get that. All right. So, Jeff, what's your thoughts going into this episode, sir?
Well, for one thing, I love the 12 episode lineup for Andor. I personally love high episode counts for TV shows. I'm old fashioned. I love the I like old fashioned sitcom runs where you have 24 30 episodes for a season and stuff like that. Of course I would never anticipate that for these kind of shows. These big adventurous streaming service TV shows aren't built like that. But I love Andor at 12 episodes, to be honest with you, just because I like content long. I like long form movies. I like the extra episodes, and that's one of the things I love about HBO, is the fact that they always do try to, at least, by like the second or third season of a show, they'll get up to 10 episodes plus per season, The Walking Dead, when it was really going good, was a good example of a show that I liked the amount of episodes they did. And obviously it's good for the network, for them to produce as many as possible. Honestly, I know that we're in that sweet spot of the show right now where we're in that string of IDMB, 9.5 and above rated episodes. So knowing that going in, my expectations are very high right now for the show. Episode to episode, I'm expecting, essentially, Andor season 1 level, high end, high quality television, with stakes and, great cinematography and, the continued, outstanding use of, alien races by Tony Gilroy in a very low key, sort of subtle way that Star Wars usually doesn't do with alien races, where they usually kind of go over the top with them, if anything, and kind of focus on them and feature them. I love how Tony Gilroy is just so different with the way he does Star Wars. His uses of aliens and characters in Andor is very subtle, and very low key, with many of the characters often not talking or having lines at all, they're just there, but they look cool. I love I love the different take on Star Wars that Tony Gilroy brings to the table with Andor. I love the things that he added for season 2. You know, it's nice to see differences between the seasons, right? And I'm enjoying them. The only thing that I'm dreading going into like episode 9, right, is unfortunately losing characters. You know, I mean, I'm not super attached to like Luthen and Bix and all that and everything, but character deaths are character deaths. And I love Andor, so I'm not looking forward to actually seeing the demise of these wonderful characters. But it's coming. Unfortunately, we know it's coming, and it is what it is, right? I mean, the show ends after 2 seasons, right? So I guess when you make a prequel TV show, you kind of have to take into consideration the reality of the fact that you're going to know the characters are going to die, So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it, the deaths of the characters and things like that, how they eliminate them throughout the course of the rest of the show, since we know they're not in Rogue One, or if they decide to even maybe with some of them just kind of not even, give them deaths, and just have them go from Andor to Rogue One seamlessly, and they never tell their story, with like Bix or something like that. I'd be fine with that if they went in that direction. I would not mind that. I don't need to have a finite story arc, for each character of Andor. And some of them I'd like to see them live, to be honest with you. So I'm loving Andor. It's really fucking good. Episode 9 is outstanding. It's a great end of another 3-episode arc, right? And a great send off to Mon Mothma, I think, for the show. I don't expect to see a lot of her in the final 3 episodes, although I could be wrong, of course. But I think this was her send off, and if that was her send off, then it was well done, and well earned, by a great talented actress, who I hope gets work off of this show, because I love her to death, Genevieve O'Reilly. She's great. And I'd love to see her in other stuff, in films and, other TV shows and things like that. She's a really good actress. A lot of these actors and actresses, I want to see, what kind of bump they get career-wise off of Andor, I guess the only other thing I would say would just be that, when it comes time for like award ceremony time, for Andor, unfortunately, they almost have too many good, like, strong female characters on Andor. There's only so many Golden Globes, and Emmys that they can, nominate for those categories. So unfortunately, some of these, these ladies on Andor are going to get the short stick of the end. When it comes to Emmy time and Golden Globe time and all that shit. I guess we'll see what happens, But I mean, like, as of right now, technically, they can have 3 different female characters from Andor alone get nominated for an Emmy, potentially. So we'll have to see, I guess, right? I think Andor is going to do really well with award shows. And that's good for Star Wars. I mean, I would have to imagine that Star Wars fans out there are going to love that, Star Wars is not a known brand that wins awards at the end of the day for, off its films and TV shows, The Mandalorian got nominated for some Emmys and things like that, during its run. And I think that for Star Wars fans, I think they'll probably love seeing Andor go out there, and actually win some awards, as a Star Wars television show. It's a very unique thing, and it's very surprising. Something you never would have expected, I think, from this show when it first came out. That it would actually be award nominated, in any way, And so, yeah, I mean, I could talk about Andor all day, sir, but I'll stop there.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Good job. I just want to shout out Connor Williams over here in the comment section. Thank you for commenting, Connor. And yeah, I'm glad Tony fought for the 12 episodes too, as well. I agree there. And yeah, the awards are stacked this year. The White Lotus season 3, Severance season 2, The Pit, Andor, The Diplomat, The Last of Us. It's crazy. TV fans are having a great year. Yeah, I think there's a lot of TV shows this year compared to the last couple years that have dropped this year. And it's insane. Like, keeping up with all of them is kind of hard. I mean, between watching this and then watching a lot of the other things I've been watching, Poker Face, Wrexham, and all the stuff, doing Last of Us before and stuff like that. It's crazy just how much stuff is out there. So yeah, thank you for being in our comment section, sir. All right, so let's get into the actual episode here and start this off. So, in the aftermath of the Gorman massacre, the Empire frames the incident as an insurrection. Mothma writes up a Senate speech against the Emperor and prepares to flee to Yavin 4. Senator Bail Organa chooses to stay behind to aid the rebellion in secret. So we'll stop there. Not go farther than that, because that's a good portion of that beginning part of the film, or episode, I should say. At this point, too, we get some Cassian scenes as well. We get lots of interesting things. We get to see Bail Organa for the first time again, being played, of course, by a different character this time, and different actor, who I think they decided to do that because unfortunately Jimmy Smits is so much older now. They wanted somebody that looked a little more younger. So especially with this being a prequel, I'm sure that's the reason why they ended up going that route. They could have done the CGI thing, but I think they wanted to make it look more authentic. So they ended up going with who. So I think that the whole Gorman massacre thing and then making it into an insurrection thing is absolutely hilarious. Totally something I feel the Empire would do, try to frame people for that doing something when it really wasn't, and all that kind of stuff, kind of agregorical to kind of today's times. I feel that writing, when Dan Giller wrote this, he had that kind of in his back mind and kind of given this the same feel, I feel, which I think is kind of funny. But the whole talk of Yavin 4 is so much fun, I think, too, throughout this whole prequel series. And so getting to see a lot more of, Coruscant, and getting to see a lot more of Yavin, and, seeing kind of the building of the rebellion stuff. And this kind of episode kind of gives you that thought process. Oh, we're like pretty much at that point where, the Empire is basically, working on and finishing the first Death Star, and the rebellion is officially like really the rebellion and everything. So I think that was, really killer here. But yeah, getting to finally see, geez Louise, Mothma again, for the first time in a while was great. And I have to agree that the actress that plays her is really fantastic. She does the part so well. And so it's been really great to see her. And I think that this was one of her most outstanding episodes out of the whole entire series. She was phenomenal in this episode.
Do you think the speech or the dance was better?
Speech.
We don't have an open style format, brother, on our show. We moderate, and then we work off the moderator, but we don't have like a wide open format, type of have it all or whatever type of format out here, brother. I probably should have told you that before we started.
All good.
All right. So going with what I read there, leading up to, Bail Organa saying he's going to stay there to help the rebellion. What are your guys' thoughts on that section of the episode? What do you think about the Empire framing, basically to make it look like that was an insurrection? What did you think about the introduction to Mothma in this episode, and Cassian, and pretty much anybody else that was in this episode? And what are your thoughts on our current Bail Organa himself, playing Mr. Bail Organa? And I'll start with you, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, I like Bail Organa. Really, to be completely honest with you, I don't really care who plays him. You know what I'm saying? This isn't the first time we've seen what's his name? Pardon me, I cannot remember that actor's name off the top of my head. But we've seen him play Bail Organa before, I believe, in other Disney Plus shows. He was in Kenobi. I know that for a fact. So that it's not that big of a deal for him to play the character again. His addition to the season is cool. From a standpoint of, I guess, of like Star Wars lore. And liking to see consistency, with the brand and the universe and all that. I like seeing them bring back, major characters, or major secondary characters from that lore. The little bit that we see with Mothma and Cassian in that little bit of the episode, where basically Cassian is just getting being given his instructions by Clea, right? To get Mothma out of the Senate, basically, prepping him for his next mission, I thought was pretty cool because I like the espionage angle of, any of the scenes that you see where they're planning and prepping and, kind of hanging out, in the shop, in the rebel part of it, like the secret part of it, I just love Clea this season. I love her character. That actress is great this season. So I like her. And I like her chemistry with Cassian and and with other characters on the show. I think she's great. In the scenes where she's talking to other people. As far as Cassian goes, there really wasn't a lot to work with. Him wanting out, makes sense. You know what I mean? From what we understand about Cassian so far at Andor, it's not surprising that he would want out. He's done a lot, to be honest with you. He's kind of already done enough, for Luthen and all that. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, when you logically look at the situation, obviously I think it's easy to say, oh, well, you should automatically just, ride or die with the rebellion at the end of the day. You can't blame a guy for wanting out at the end of the day, So that wasn't really shocking to me. I just assumed that there would be something that would occur, or more than one thing that would happen that would draw him back to the rebellion again, just like we've seen before in Andor, reconnect his ties and all that kind of stuff, and we got that, and we saw that happen, which I saw coming. As far as Organa and Mom Mothma, it's obvious that we kind of knew that this was going to head in the direction of a speech. She is a senator at the end of the day, right? So I really enjoyed the angle of the episode where right from jump it's made clear that now she finally has reached that point in the in Andor where she has to go, right? She has to go to Yevon, right, or whatever, and I love that that sort of espionage sort of vibe that sort of brings to the whole episode from the jump, and how layered it gets with the different agents involved in getting Mothma out, and insurgents, plants in the in the rebellion and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot, a lot of cool stuff, and I do like the political angle of Star Wars too. I do like the Senate stuff and all that. It's cool. The Coruscant stuff is cool. So I loved seeing more Andor being shot, and done in Coruscant. It's a great location, for Star Wars. So that's it.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I have to go back once again and say that I have absolutely loved getting to see more of Coruscant, because that was one thing, if you noticed in the original Star Wars films and even the prequels and so forth, we saw very little of actually being in Coruscant, things going on. We had brief times where they had Senate hearings and stuff like that, but they didn't really focus on the life in Coruscant and stuff like that. And we didn't really see much of things going on with the Empire. And so that's one thing that I've loved about this show, is that we've gotten to see so much more about the Empire and kind of their inner workings and their thought process of that. So I think that's been great. And I think this beginning part of the episode gives even more to that. It gives us more of that, especially being in Coruscant and this, going to the Senate meeting and stuff like that, which is really cool. I think it's really fantastic. Going over to you, Mark, your thoughts, sir, on that section of the episode.
There was a lot of anticipation towards this event because it's been played out in different Star Wars content before, right? They showed the Mothma speech in Rebels, and then detailed another portion of her escape to Yavin in that. I was disappointed that they deviated a little. I thought the Rebels speech was better than the speech in Andor, but Overall, you guys make some good points. I don't think that adding Benjamin Bratt because of I heard it was a scheduling conflict with Jimmy Smits because Jimmy Smits continued his role in Kenobi, and Benjamin Bratt just was available. For
I could have been wrong about that. Honestly, I'm not.
It's a negligible 1-2 scene thing. It's not that big of a deal. Not trying to throw shade. Benjamin Bratt came in and did a great job. I think very Jimmy Smits like in that. The character of Bail Organa is reserved and calm and controlled. And the sad thing is, as we see him stay and not go to Yavin, it ends up leading to his demise in the long run as he tries to stay with his own path and go back to Alderaan. And we all know what happens to Alderaan, right? So I think that we see two choices, right? One to lead the rebellion and one to be a little bit more controlled, right? Talk less, smile more, and end up blown up into an asteroid field at some point, right? So I think that there's a lot of this episode for me really turned up the political aspect even more, and to the point that you made around the insurrection talk, that word now is so pointed, and is definitely is like a word that's bolded a lot since events happened in the world, and I love that they didn't shy away from terminology, right? They use the power that the word holds to really draw divisiveness from the viewer, right? Make you a little frustrated, remind you of emotions that you felt in the past, and then spin the story in a way. Really enjoyed that. And the way that they told us that there was a leak in Organa's crew, right? They're like, you're going in because these guys can't do it. Because there's a leak, there's a rat, right, in your crew. So it's every spy or mafia movie you've watched in the past, right? Who's going to turn? Are they going to show that? Are they not going to show it? Do we know this character or not? Is it somebody that we've known through the entire series? So I really enjoyed kind of the build up to that. I think they played it off really well, thinking, oh my God, is it her assistant that she just fired that was going to try and kill her? Where's this going? And it turns out that he wasn't, and they gave him the retribution. And they also showed very well visually that this speech and this event is what built the rickety foundation of the rebellion that we see in Rogue One. So I found a lot. This was probably my favorite episode of the series because it was the most bringing together one. And I'm a big backstory fan. So that was my thought.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you. Backstories are always fun when they're done right because they can do backstories and they can suck. And how they did it in this has been fantastic how they're doing it. So I highly agree that this episode has a lot of great backstory going on too, especially finally kind of having the whole Bail Organa thing come in finally too has been, I think, very interesting as well, because we all know he goes on to be, the adoptive father of Leia. And we all know that, we got Vader coming in here soon and things happening and stuff like that. So, it's really fun to know that this is a part of that history. So I think that's great. All right. Excellent job, everyone. Any other words on that section of the episode before we move on?
Nope.
Okay. Excellent. Right. All right. So, returning to the episode. So, at this point, Luthen learns from Jung that Bail's security team is compromised and assigns Cassian to extract Mothma from Coruscant. Meanwhile, Luthen clashes with Mothma over the depth of his subterfuge within the rebellion and his choice to have Tay killed. With Organa's help, Mothma takes the floor of the Senate and powerfully condemns Emperor Palpatine and the genocidal Empire's manipulation of the truth. So we'll stop there because that is an amazing speech. And I love that whole scene too, because you get to see that huge Coliseum that they're in doing their Senate stuff, and they got those flying things that they go into to talk to each other and stuff. It's like so freaking cool. But yeah, I mean, this whole section too, we get some good Luthen props too. Stellan Skarsgård is so amazing, and I've loved him as Luthen. I think he's fantastic as Luthen, and I think we get some really great kind of like, once again, more kind of backstory a little bit about how, Luthen has had to be super divisive on what he tells people, and he does it to everyone. And you get kind of that, you get kind of Mothma's frustration with that, but at the same time, you're like, it's for your own good, Mothma. And, Luthen doing that is not only saving so many people and saving her from stuff, it's too bad Mothma doesn't understand that at this point here, feeling kind of like, let down or backstabbed almost. And the subterfuge is just really great, because if you think about it, like with any situation, if you are a tactical team trying to go in and take out, a high rising big enemy, and you give away everything that you're going to do and they can counter it. Whereas you have to go in sneakily, you have to do it in a certain way that you can get in and take out the target without being, compromised. And that's kind of what Luthen has had to do in order to get to the point where they're at and kind of the beginning of the rebellion in this episode. So I think that's really great, that sequence. I think it's really fun. I think it's really in depth. I think it has a lot of great character to it. And it just shows the great acting by both, Stellan Skarsgård and Mothma's actress. And I think it's a really fantastic scene. And then her speech is absolutely dynamic. Absolutely loved her speech. She is so powerful and so convincing and so amazing in that scene. And I think it's her best acting throughout this whole entire series. She was just absolutely fabulous. So I think she did a really good job. So going around the panel now, what are you guys' thoughts on that section leading up to, her giving her speech before having to escape Coruscant? And I'll start with you, Mark.
I really enjoy the revisit to the Senate chamber to see that it's, back in action after the Yoda and Palpatine fight of, 15 years prior, that people are still using it, that it hasn't been completely shut off yet. But I also enjoy the fact that they played a little bit of a little cat and mouse there, that the procedural back end of the Senate and the voting, the way that Bail Organa introduced it by quoting the rules that were just introduced in order to then be able to move the focus over to Mothma seamlessly and without them immediately turning off her microphone. I thought was really solid. I'm sure that we'll talk more about the back end and anticipation that was built towards the end of the speech. But I really enjoyed the shell game portion of it, and all the different people that tried to stop it right beforehand. A lot of big moments in Star Wars we don't get as much lead up to as we can, and I always enjoy filling out the mythos and adding more detail, whether it's a series like this or the from a certain point of view books and all of the other material that's out there. Anytime we can get more detail and just a little more feeling, I'm all about it.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Jeff, your thoughts, sir, on that section?
Yeah, well, I mean, Gilroy does a great job with the detail. Mark, I think he's spot on when it comes to that stuff. Me personally, for my eye, I feel like he's done a lot to add and further, the development, I guess you could say, of this universe, right? This timeline, I guess you could say, of Star Wars history, right? His adaptation, his version so far in Andor has been unique, to say the least, right? I love in episode 9 in this section, I love the continued use of a great job of having running storylines, or a lot of, the same storyline, but from different perspectives in the same episode type deal that they do on Andor really well. And a lot of other shows do well and some don't. They did a great job of it in the build up to the speech. And then after also, it's just very seamless, how they transition from different characters throughout the episode, and give us these different perspectives, of what's going on behind the scenes in the Senate. It's very illuminating, we never really have gotten a behind the scenes look of, the Senate from a standpoint of, its back rooms and, its security and, how the Empire runs the Senate, on Coruscant and all that kind of stuff. We've seen the Senate before, right? But we've never actually seen the inner workings of the Senate being played out in front of us. So it's very, it's very small scale, the story of this episode, very low level, but it works. Just like a lot of the stories work in Andor. It's so low key, so subtle, and almost expected. You expect what occurs in this episode. It's due. Coming off episode 8, it's due. And for Mothma, she's due. I felt like her speech was well written, but did not have the same impact that other speeches in Andor, like Luthen in the past, in season 1, or Forrest Whitaker, with his great speech, in like episode whatever it was, 3 or 4 or 5, where he had that speech at the end of the episode, he was great, in that speech. Those speeches where they come out of nowhere almost with the character, I think really kind of, they steal the show, they really carry, they have more impact, I think. The Mon Mothma speech was very set up, you saw it coming almost. So, at that point, I think that kind of affected, its overall impact on the show, but it was still very well written and very well delivered. And it was a great scene. I loved Genevieve O'Reilly's emotions and her mannerisms and her, her body language during the speech, at the end of it, when she kind of, withdrew on her flying platform backwards, I thought that was great shot right there. The Senate shots were great. I love seeing the Senate on Coruscant in action. That alien character that came on and did the speech before Mothma was cool. I dug him. He was pretty cool. That was our first speaking alien in Andor, I think. So I like that, that interesting detail there, but I love the small things that Tony Gilroy does with Andor. And, Mark already talked about it. The buildup, the tension of all the different factions occur, kind of be represented leading up to the speech, trying to stop it, the Empire reacting, on their feet, on the balls of their feet, kind of, to what's going on, being surprised. Their listening device getting caught, and stopped in Mothma's office was cool. I like the way that they handled that, sort of internally in the episode. Again, it's a very small thing, but it adds a really cool component to the episode. And I also really liked the character, the assistant of Mon Mothma's, that becomes very pivotal in the episode as a character to her escape. He's great in the episode. I liked him right from jump, when Mothma dismissed him, I wasn't really sure what was going on, I couldn't tell if he'd been like working with the Empire at that point or with Luthen. I wasn't sure. But then obviously I figured it out, But that's pretty much it, sir. It was a really good section. I love Genevieve O'Reilly. Hats off to her. She deserved an episode at this point of Andor season 2. And, I think this was a great send-off for her character in the show, I do expect to see her again. I just don't expect to see a lot of her.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you, sir. Great job, everyone. Yeah, very well done. I couldn't have explained it even better than that. Like I said before, just great speech, great acting by Genevieve, and just a great all-around section. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was so good.
Didn't Bail Organa swear as well and say shit or something like that to Mothma right before she gave the speech?
He could have. I don't remember.
I think he did actually swear, which again would be a first for Star Wars. If he actually did curse outside of the basic swear words, that would be another Tony Gilroy first with Andor.
There you go. There you go, folks. Something new to learn. Excellent. Yeah, I honestly don't remember him swearing. He might have. I just don't recall. But I do know that there has been throughout the series. I feel there has been definitely some words you have not heard in Star Wars before.
He used the shit word. He said rip the shit up or something like that with your speech.
Yep. So that's great. Very, very awesome. All right. So, getting back to the story here. Actually, before I go past that, I don't feel many have mentioned it. What were you guys' thoughts on the killing of Tay? Did that impact your thoughts at all with the story or with that character being killed off? To me, I didn't really care, but I still think that that was kind of an interesting question. Any thoughts on the killing of Tay?
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I've got to say that Tay was kind of a side character for me. I wasn't like super attached in any way. And again, because some of the newer characters or who were first being introduced with, I was not moved. I did enjoy the randomness and kind of movie trope with which they did it. But yeah, no negative impact. Again, you expect, to your point early in this episode, you don't expect many people that we meet here to live.
Excellent. All right. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't think it was too much. I don't think a lot of people really cared too much. I haven't heard or seen very much from anybody in comments or anything, but I just thought I'd throw that out there just because I thought that'd be interesting to talk about a little bit. Because to me, I was just like, who, Tay? Who?
Yeah, I felt no impact at all by the death.
Yeah, so I thought that was an interesting thing to talk about. All right, so going back to the story. So Cassian successfully convinces Mothma to leave with him, terminating the spy on Organa's rival security team and Mothma's ISB planted driver, Chloris. He brings her to the safe house on Coruscant, where she publicly positions herself with the rebellion. Ooh. So we'll stop there. So this scene is absolutely fantastic. This whole exit strategy is action-packed, fun. The killing of the spy that is in Organa's rival security team, the Chloris, the driver, being killed because he is an ISB planted, and I think that this whole section was so awesome, so fun. Just watching Cassian think and write, and Mothma just kind of being shocked by everything going on, and like, what's going on? I don't understand. And she's so shocked by Chloris being killed and stuff like that. And just, it's really done well. I thought it was so action-packed. It had me enthralled, had me glued to the screen watching it. And I just thought the whole thought process was cool. And then them ended up going to that safe house, where she, basically Mothma finally, positioned herself that she's a part of the rebellion. That was great to see that finally we got to see the beginnings of who Mothma becomes. And I thought that was really well executed and well done. So what are you guys' thoughts on this section and them going to the safe house, their grand exit from the Coruscant Pavilion, and kind of your thoughts just on all the stuff that went on there with all these spies and people being planted and stuff like that, and kind of their exit strategy and the action and everything. And this time I'll start with you, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense, in the grand scale of things, that the Empire would have its own spies and have its own inroads made, within, different, parts of the rebellion, and, have their own agents and their own people, in there, it's only common sense, it's the Empire at the end of the day, right? So I mean, that was not surprising, but it was a great layer to add to the episode, and to the, the conundrum of, needing to get Mothma out after the speech, which I thought was just, absolutely really super well done. Great directing, of those scenes, great cinematography. It all looked great, I think they spent a lot of money on these Coruscant sets, Andor, the only complaint I have with Andor is the budget. $275 million is a lot of fucking money, for a 12 episode television show at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what kind of television show it is, this is still 2025. It is a TV show. I just don't like, as much as I love Andor, I don't like the precedent that's being set by some of these streaming services with how much they're paying to produce some of these TV shows. $275 million is a lot of money to produce a television show, a season of a television show, and I could be wrong about this, don't get me wrong. This is just my opinion. I could be, being a stickler or being too conservative or too old fashioned. But I think that, although I love the sets and the costume design and how awesome everything in the world of Andor looks, it's great. You know what I'm saying? And I love seeing that money, on screen and, actually being, validated to some extent, as opposed to like the Acolyte, for instance, where you're like, where the fuck did that money go with this show, and you have no idea. At least you can see it with Andor, right? But still, at the end of the day, to be fair, I do want to see, as many of the TV, major TV networks and TV channels out there, cable is still a real thing. I want to see them alive and continuing to be alive and making content, and producing television, potentially coming up with, other big hit shows like Andor, in the future, right? So from that standpoint, I just don't think a lot of other networks, like especially the basic CBS, NBC, the major networks, like those guys can't compete with those kind of budgets, these shows, and that creates a separation, right, between what you can put out on screen at that high end level of that $275 million budget, and then what you can put out on a normal regular budget for a sci-fi television show, $50-75 million or whatever for a season, which is still a lot of money, is not going to look anywhere near like what you're getting in Andor or for that $275 million at the end of the day, so you're going to end up with major separation there, I think, right? So I don't think that's good overall for entertainment, for television in general, right? And again, that's just my opinion. I just, my disposition or attitude is one where I want to see Star Wars do well, and then I'll see Fox do well still too, and put up with hit shows and stuff like that. I just want to see all these networks still that, there, and I think it's good. The competition's good for TV at the end of the day. I think, having the different services, the different networks out there, putting the shows out, competing and all that. I love Andor, I wish that they were making more seasons of it. I hate that it ends with season 2. Like, seriously, I would pass up sex, to watch Andor at the end of the day. I'm reaching that age, Cyber, that territory and age where I will give up things like sex, for good episodes of like Andor. You know what I mean? Like, so I would make that trade. I would definitely do that. I like getting laid. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, some sexual encounters and experiences you have really don't end up being all that super fucking exciting. Some of them actually depend, and it could be your own fault. Some of them suck. Some of them are really embarrassing. Honestly, not everybody has their A game every fucking night with the ladies. Some shit happens sometimes. So, I've definitely had some sexual experiences before where I would definitely trade them in any day for another season of Andor. Not just because I like doing the episode recaps and being able to make content about Andor. I know that's kind of important at the end of the day, but I just really like Andor as a television show. I think it's great. I'm not a massive Star Wars fan. I don't know as much about Star Wars as Mark does. I could never get into Rebels personally. I tried to watch it, but I never got into it like I did with Clone Wars, where I locked right in and just watched right through it, because I loved it. But the first season of Andor and covering it with Cyber made me a bigger Star Wars fan at the end of the day. Overall, I became a bigger Star Wars fan in general because of Andor season 1 and because of covering it for 12 episodes, for 3 months. And because of that, I watched Clone Wars. I watched other Star Wars, content that I probably never would have watched. I got into it, tried Rebels, maybe we'll try again and be able to watch it again. You never know. Overall, that's powerful. That's very powerful, for a show like, Andor to be able to have that kind of impact on me, at least, And I know that we have all heard the stories, the personal, testimonies from Star Wars fans, big Star Wars fans, who consider Andor to be, the second best thing that Star Wars has ever made, right? A lot of them do, that's a very popular statement, about Andor and like how good it is. So yeah, this is a great, part of the episode that we were talking about. And, again, I love Mon Mothma. I'd love to see her get nominated for an Emmy, Genevieve O'Reilly for Mon Mothma in this show. I think she deserves it more than anybody else of the other female characters. I think she deserves it. She's always been the main female character on the show, as far as I'm concerned, as far as how much screen time she gets and how many episodes she'll get, that are centered on her a lot, throughout the seasons. Bix really got more popular in season 2, but she really wasn't that big in season 1, and Clea really didn't do a lot in season 1 either. She's gotten a lot stronger in season 2. We'll have to see how that plays out, but in general, Cyber, I just think episode 9 is just outstanding. And when Andor comes on and the episode starts, and it unfurls, I'm just completely fucking all about it during the episodes. I love it. I'm all about it, and I don't want it to end when it ends. I want there to be another set of scenes that happens or whatever. Every time, and then it just ends, and I'm like, oh fuck, all right. But I do want to say though, overall, that this was a long episode, and I love long episodes of Andor. So I really dug the episode length. Most definitely, sir.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Over to you, Mark. Your thoughts, sir, on that section.
First, I want to say 2 things. One, Jeff, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong, and you can get better.
Oh man,
don't pass up other things for Star Wars. And I'm gonna say, when you said when the opening of Andor comes on and I hear that music, I thought you were gonna tell us you were hard, and it was about to get really awkward, but that's okay.
I've never had one of those connective, type of deals going on, Mark, when it comes to television or.
you were leaning me there. You were getting really passionate about the television and the state of it. And I like that they're putting money into the franchises that will retain people to streaming services, because we're in one of the first quarters ever where streaming service subscriptions are eclipsing cable television subscriptions. You're getting, this is, I think, a reaction to networks leaning far too deeply into the cheap to produce, cheap to staff reality television and not telling stories, right? I know that there's large corporations that are buying up all the IP that we've built relationships with through the
Sure,
years.
but Mark, you understand my argument. You know what I'm saying? You get
Oh,
where I'm coming from. You know what I mean? When it comes to
do,
Andor's
but-
budget, you know, I'm just saying it's a slippery slope to like pay that much money for a television show.
I think that slope was eclipsed years ago. I think the first few seasons of Game of Thrones are the reason, right? HBO's been doing this.
Oh yeah,
out
HBO's they've always paid.
they've been putting out better television than television for decades, and now everybody else is getting there on their streaming service because they have the autonomy to do so. And I'm a big fan of that, because it's a direct revenue stream, and they're not beholden to.
Do you think it's good for Star Wars? Do you think you like Star Wars? Do you think it's good for Star Wars for the Acolyte to cost $250 million and for Andor to cost, again, it is 12 episodes and they are long, you know, that is three movies at the end of the day, but still, do you think that's good for Star Wars overall to have budgets like that?
As somebody who grew up with the VHS of the original trilogy and didn't see another piece. I was born when Jedi came out, right? So I didn't see another piece other than the Christmas special of Star Wars content that wasn't a book or a comic until I was in high school, right? So my entire adolescence was all, you read it and you kind of figured it out, right? From fan fiction or real fiction. Then we got those three movies. Love them or hate them. I've learned to like them as I've gotten older. And then we started getting more. We got Clone Wars, the movie and the TV series. We got Rebels. Then we got all of these Disney Plus shows. And to me, the more the merrier. If I can get quality Star Wars, I want it.
Oh, as a fan, you want
Marvel had to deal with. If you would look at how like Marvel had to deal with some of their TV series shows, like, not that Daredevil was good, but like when those shows on the CW started, a CW show versus a Marvel movie was, you know, like complete. It's the difference between the Pacific and the Atlantic, right? They're super wide apart. But as this Star Wars content has grown, it's close together and blurring the lines. The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, all of that is blurring the line.
To your point, I think I don't want to get too far off in the weeds with the crosstalk, but still, even with the MCU already is aware that there's a problem financially with how much it's costing them to produce the Disney Plus shows and the movies and all that kind of stuff. You know, considering what they're getting in return at this point in the MCU. So I just want to point that out. You know what I mean? Like, you know, they're having to face, you know, the facts that, you know, that their big budget ways are kind of catching up with them a little bit. I just wonder, you know, for Star Wars, does it help them, you know, to be spending, you know, to have it cost that much to produce something, you know, high quality? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that Marvel produced at like an 8x to Star Wars, though. Like, if you really stack it up, there's so much more that Marvel put out there that didn't drive forward or support their main track. Star Wars is filling in some blanks here and there, right? They're not making a multiverse, if you will, right? So, and they're selective with what they put out. It seems to be, as much as people hate Kathleen Kennedy, because she's, you know, whatever, she's done the thing that the Broccolis did with the Bond series, in that the movies were selective. They followed a certain whatever, and they were very, respectful to the initial vision.
Oh, Star Wars is a totally different IP than Marvel Comics and all that.
Yeah,
there's no
I agree.
comparison.
But there's a ton of Star Wars content out there that has been belovedly accepted by the fans as it's put out. So I really love that. The thing I liked about this episode in the area, just to get back to the initial question that Cyber posed, I liked that the internal like 1984 ISB crew that were trying to stop the feed and all that. They were like the B team, right? Because everybody else was out getting ready and with Krennic, and all the B team were there. You could tell the office was empty. Nobody knew how to start it. This was like that guy's fourth backup. So they got the broadcast out, and then we saw what I thought was a great, like, Hollywood standard escape. That the escape that they put into this is good enough for any movie that you see out there, any like heist movie or anything like that.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you. Great little
Hard to get tangential on you, Cyber.
great cross chatter there. That conversation was very interesting. It was fun to listen to. I'm sure the listeners out there and the watchers were like, ooh, this is getting good. So yeah, great job, guys. Great job. Excellent. Yeah, so I mean, just to kind of, back off of what you two kind of were talking about a little bit, just briefly. Yeah, I totally get both of you guys' perspective and where you guys are going and what you meant. And I agree on both accounts because, certain things do really play into how a series is played out. So I definitely would agree there. All right, so moving on. So back to the story. So Cassian accompanies the injured Willman back to Yavin 4. Disturbed by recent events, Cassian resolves to leave and begin a new life with Bix. But Bix departs during the night, leaving Cassian a message that implores him to stay and help the rebellion and promises that she will find him again once it succeeds. Later, technicians reprogram K2SO, the stolen KX droid, to serve the rebellion. Oh, what a way to end the episode, having K2SO being operational and his self that was in the great film Rogue One. So I think that was a really great way to end the episode. But the whole Bix thing departing was like freaking insane. But at the same time, I totally foresaw it. I knew Bix was going to do something stupid like that and like leave him or something like that. I was waiting for it. I thought it was going to happen earlier in the series, in this season, but I knew it was going to happen because, what's going to push Cassian to go forward with Rogue One? What's going to push him? Because he has this love interest and everything like that. Is she going to die? What's going to happen? And so this kind of, to me, is kind of a push in that direction of what caused him to keep moving forward and going on with the rebellion. So I think that whole scene was very interesting. Her leaving a video message too is kind of fucked up, but it is what it is. But still, Cassian, trying to want to say he wants to start a new life after what happened and everything, and him, as we saw throughout pretty much majority of this beginning of the season, he never really felt like he was fully into it. You could tell he was always like thinking of ways to get out of it, weasel out of it, and stuff like that, or coming up with some excuse or something like that. And it just seems that Cassian never had, he didn't have really that flair to do it until as we saw the season go by. We've seen the wheels turning and things changing and altering and pushing Cassian towards becoming the Cassian Andor we know from Rogue One. So I think that this whole section was a good little job at kind of giving us kind of that push in the direction of what needs to be done, and then just beautifully ending the episode with K2SO becoming active and reprogrammed. I think is really awesome. So what are you guys' thoughts on this? Basically the conclusion of the episode, and kind of the whole Bix thing and Cassian and kind of his flip-flopping. And what did you think about K2SO becoming active and being a new droid? And I'll start with you, Mark.
I like Cassian as the reluctant hero. I think that we've got that trope from him through the first season, and it's what we learned in Rogue One as well. Like, he didn't want to be the leader, but he knew that he was the one with the capability to do it. And we see in Rogue One his, the impact of this emotional moment where she breaks up with him by video message, which is like text message in a galaxy far, far away, right? Super cold. Nice guys finish last in Star Wars apparently, and she bails on him. The one thing that kind of Martha'd me in this moment, and that's an I Can Do This All Day podcast reference to the things that pissed me off from Batman versus Superman, is that they make it about a girl, right? He's lost and defaults back into the rebellion because of a girl, right? We're in this time where Star Wars and Marvel is promoting a lot of independence for female characters, which is well deserved. But they go back to this like sad sack Andor. He's there because she left him, so he stayed, right? And this is the guy that it was so pivotal to the destruction of the Death Star and made the ultimate sacrifice, but he wouldn't have done it if his girlfriend wouldn't have left him. Like, he wasn't passionate enough to give that last ounce of devotion, that last measure of devotion. He simply, he got dumped, so it was a rebound mission for him. And I don't dig that. That felt kind of just off to me a little bit, but then they turn K2SO back on and I'm super happy, right? And the way that they do it in strapping him down and everybody's got guns on them, like, it really builds up the strength and durability of this robot, which I think was kind of a passing thought in Rogue One. They're just like, yeah, no, he's a robot. He's super, like, they really tell you the difference with a K2 versus a C3. So big fan of that as the finish. And, one of my favorite endings to any episode I've seen thus far.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you, sir. Yeah, definitely an awesome ending. I love that we get to finally see that droid in action, and kind of his beginnings and kind of how they got him to be a part of the rebellion and everything. So I think that was great. All right, Jeff, your thoughts, sir, on the conclusion of the episode.
Yeah, I mean, don't mind my dog if Dodge barks. I think he's stuck outside, and I'm gonna let him in a minute. But we'll just let him chill and bark for now. Little aside to to animal rights out there. We'll just let the dog just chill outside and bark. He'll be okay. He's spoiled anyway. But it's a great ending of episode 9. I don't know that the endings of actual episodes of Andor are actually really all that great at the end of the day. When I think about it, they're okay, but they're never really all that like super exciting. They just kind of all of a sudden wrap up, and then there's outstanding fucking music in the credits every episode. Because the guy that does the score on this fucking show is a goddamn fucking genius. You know what I'm saying? So there's always something good, awaiting you for the end credits. You know what I mean? Of different types of music too, to work with, which is cool. But it was a great finale of episode 9, the way that it heads off, because after Mothma's speech and the super exciting balls to the wall escape of Mothma and Cassian, there's still 20 plus minutes of episode to work with. You know what I mean? In Yavin, right? That was great. I loved how that went. While I was watching the episode, I was like, oh, this is great. There's a lot of episode left. you know, and they changed settings, you know. I loved the meetup, like, you know, after the escape, you know, between Clea and Mothma and the different characters, you know, kind of coming together, right, and figuring out what they're gonna do. I just love the spy espionage, you know, Captain America Winter Soldier esque, clear present danger, vibes of, like, you know, those scenes, right? And I love how they're shot so darkly a lot of times, you know, and as I already mentioned, the score is always outstanding in these episodes, so there's always great, you know, music and, you know, all that, you know, great composing being done in the episode, and this was no different. I loved the decision to, you know, have Mothma, go out and give a speech to the rebellion after the speech. You know, that seemed very, like, commonsensical within the story of Andor for them to do that and take advantage of her popularity, right? To kind of cheer on the rebels. You know, I mean, she is kind of like their first real, public star in a way of the rebellion, in a way, you know, when you think about it, right? She is a star, right? She's a big name in the news and all that, you know, the Galaxy News and shit, you know? So I knew that that Bix would leave Cassian before the end of the season and just dip, either like go on a suicide mission for Luthen, you know, and die, or just go on her own, you know, and then it would go in that direction, their relationship, that she would leave him for the rebellion. I always knew that would happen, you know. She's always been obviously the more dedicated soldier when it came to, like, who had the, you know, the most actual, you know, internal desire, to be a rebel and, to ride or die for the cause. It was obviously always Bix, you know, from jump in Andor season 1 that, you know, was, you know what I'm saying, down for the cause when it came for the rebellion. You know what I'm saying? Her character in and out has been nothing but about servicing the rebellion throughout Andor. That's all she does. You know what I'm saying? So that was very, it wasn't a put off for me in the audience. I wasn't, like, put down or put off by the fact that I saw all this stuff coming. It's okay to have things be very, you know, expectant in television shows sometimes. You know certain things are just going to happen, and, you know, you can figure them out. And that doesn't have to be anticlimactic, you know, to see it unfold. I thought that, considering I've been a little bit poo-poo, when it comes to Cass and Bix relationship in the show, I thought their ending for the show was very well done. And really was some really good character, you know, building for Cassian still, you know, within season 2, which is great still, you know, to see that happening. You know, the stuff with, bringing back K2SO or whatever to life and all that, you know, and the sort of tech aspects of Star Wars, you know, that lore, that, you know, area of Star Wars lore, when you head in that direction, is fun. It's a very interesting, you know, aspect of Star Wars. It's great. And that the noises that robot made in the process of reprogramming or whatever were fucking loud and crazy, man. I loved it. And that was a great way to end the episode, in all honesty. It was really, really great, you know, to bring back a very beloved character from a very good, you know, very good Star Wars film in Rogue One, and inject him, bring him back to life and put him into this already outstanding show. You know, he just, you know, as we're taking away characters, they're being added, which is outstanding. You know, for a television show to be able to do that at its end like that, like Andor was doing, is actually very different and very, you know, not something that you typically see. You know, usually the characters just go; they don't, you know, get replaced really. But that's, you know, that's how, you know, how interesting Andor is as a prequel. I loved Mothma's send-off in the episode, and I feel like she was totally the MVP of episode 9. Let me go let dodge it, Cyber.
Okay, thank you, sir. Good job. All right. So yeah, I mean, once again, great ending, great episode. Thought it was very well done. Definitely, I could see why this was a part of the IMDb's highest rated episodes in that arc that they had put it into. Most definitely, and I think that it's just done really well. It's been a really great show. This is a really phenomenal episode. I think there's a lot of great things that happened in it. And I think it was just really executed very well and definitely high quality. The imagery, everything about this episode was so well constructed. Very well done. All right, so that is the end of the episode, and that is the end of the review of episode 9 recap, folks. So I'll now turn it over to Mr. Jeff, and he will take us the rest of the way.
We got to do ratings still, sir.
Oh, yeah. Ratings.
Come on
What
now.
would you give it, sir?
You can't forget about ratings, man. Come on now. That's like forgetting Hollywood Video. You just can't happen,
Never forget.
Nah. Shit. If they threw a Hollywood Video advertisement into regular rotation of, tomorrow or whatever, I would have no problem with that shit. I'd be like, all right, cool. I love it. Great nostalgia, I used to love Hollywood Video back in the day. But I guess I probably would give episode 9 a 9.5. I don't want to give it a 10 because it's just kind of, right below there, really good, but like not quite 10 level, I don't think, you never know. Episode 10 could be a 10 without question. With Andor, you never know. But I'll give it a 9.5, Cyber.
Okay. What would you give it, Mark? 1 through 10.
I'm gonna be controversial, and I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I'm gonna give it an 8.5 because I feel like for Andor, it's definitely been some of the best, but this series sometimes loses me with its slowness. This episode completely non-aligning to that, but the fact that they did the crazy rich Asians moment where she just leaves him a note and leaves, it was the bad for me. The breakup was just poor, not Star Warsy, not enough death.
All right, and I give it a 10 because I think it was absolutely superb. That simple, that put.
Yeah, Mark, you are definitely a Andor critic, sir.
I'm a little hypocritical with some things, but I enjoy the show, but sometimes the deviation gets me. Season 1 I loved. Season 1 got me back for season 2, and then season 2 has not lived up for me. But it could just be I miss Andy Serkis. Who knows?
No, you're right, sir. You make good points. You made good points on light. Andor season 1 is a masterpiece.
Yes, it is. All right, sir. Over to you.
Most definitely, sir. I appreciate you, Cyberneticshark, for moderating tonight. Throw it over to me, sir. Good teamwork, sir. Most definitely. And Mark, it was great again to have you on for your first show with us. Hopefully, we will get the whole team on for something else besides Andor in the future. And we'll continue to collaborate. As I already expressed, earlier to your co-host. I'm sure we'll be able to find something in the future that we can try to, connect on, and we'll try to get you both on.
Yeah, and I'll make sure I send him some airborne for the week beforehand, so he has his proper vitamin C and zinc intake.
Yeah,
so he doesn't have to call out sick.
We've got good stuff coming up in the next couple of months. We've got that Alien Earth show coming up from XFX. That looks like it could be really good. You know what I'm saying? Trailer looks really good. So there's other good television to cover. And talk about this year. Yeah, man. It's always awesome to have somebody on for their first shot. Their first guest appearance with us on the Bleeding Edge. We really appreciate it. And yeah, man, fucking A. So, all right, let's do our plugs. Folks, we at the MCU'S Bleeding Edge do appreciate things like, for instance, following, rating the podcast for the MCU'S Bleeding Edge. We love that. Mainly that is, my main plug tonight. I love ratings on the podcast. So do that, please. As far as I can do this all day, sir, you start and have at it, Mark.
Yeah, you can find us at I Can Do This All Day podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We review movies, TV. Sometimes we do a shirtless episode, as you can see in our banner here.
There's your shirt. There's your shirtless show.
There's an event. This is what we talked about pregame. We did the machine. But we do some watch-alongs. We do some Rushmores. We like to keep it light and keep it fun, but the hypocrisy is strong. My co-host and I, Dan, I've been doing it for a while, so we got a decent back catalog. But I Can Do This All Day podcast or pod on I Can Do This All Day pod on YouTube. We're on Instagram, we're on Spotify, we're everywhere. But if you liked what you heard, hit us up.
I'm sorry, I'm limited a little bit when it comes to doing these plugs tonight, guys. I'm using my MacBook Pro out here in the garage without a mouse. And I'm doing everything, just with my hands on the mouse pad. And it's very difficult to navigate like things like a simple YouTube page, unfortunately. So I can't scroll up and down very well. But regardless, Cyber, please, sir, have at it and plug away. And I will do my best, sir, to scroll down the page.
Okay. Anywho, folks, if you enjoy me moderating this episode or moderating it all, or if you enjoy me on the panel, you can check out my content. You'll find me under Cyberneticshark. You'll find me on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Patreon, X, even Tumblr. Pretty much anywhere there's a social media platform. As you can see, my most recent movie review was a tribute review for Val Kilmer, the film The Ghost in the Darkness. If you have not seen that, highly recommend check it out. Check out that review of that. My most recent trailer reaction was for the upcoming Nobody 2 film with Bob Odenkirk. If you haven't seen that trailer, check out that trailer reaction of it too.
Oh yes, Cyber. The Ghost in the Darkness is a classic.
Yep, yes it is. I think it's a very underrated film, and also based on a true story.
Total high budget, big movie from back in the day.
Yep. And think it was great. Wonderful trailer. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Most recently, I put up a couple mini shorts for you guys that you can check out too as well. One for the How to Train Your Dragon live action remake, along with a few other newer films I've watched. The Cleaner and the Double, which is a Jesse Eisenberg film from 2014. And I'll be having more stuff for you guys soon, more trailer reaction, more reviews, all that kind of good stuff. Keep your eyes out, working on more stuff for you guys. Plenty of, trailer reactions coming up too as well. Some more reviews. Of course, one for How to Train Your Dragon, the Phoenician Scheme, and so forth. So keep your eyes out for that stuff, and keep on subscribing, keep on watching. And if you haven't had a chance, go check out that Patreon page. Lots of great stuff on there once you become a member. Helps out the channel.
Cyber, did you see the Electric State?
Yes.
Did it cost $300 million?
300 what?
Did it cost $300 million? Like 300 plus million?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did the Russo brothers direct that?
Yes, they did. And it was for Netflix. I don't think it would be $300 million.
It was. The budget was $300 million.
320. 320 on IMDb.
It's a lot of CGI. Lots of CGI, so I can see that.
Talk about a fucking budget. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really interesting concept. I've seen videos on YouTube that explain the concept of the Electric State, the story of it, the world or whatever, but I never saw the movie, Yep.
Decent movie, not bad.
Yeah, I heard it was 50-50, it was like a halfway decent at least.
Yep. Can't go wrong with Chris Pratt.
I think it outlives its IMDb ranking. It's ranked at like a 5.9. I think it outlasts it. We did an episode on I Can Do This All Day. It is pretty okay.
Mark, just a little, creator to creator chat here, what, you guys do some episodical television, don't you?
Yeah, we'll try, and we don't do episode breakdowns like this. I love the detail that y'all get into here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we'll normally do like a preview of some opening and then revisit on the back end of it. But yeah, we'll do anything sci-fi, Marvel, Star Wars.
I got you.
Try and throw it back. I love that Cyber's out there reviewing some stuff like Ghost in the Darkness, which was classic. Those Lions are really in like the Smithsonian still.
Oh, we're very all over the place, man. As creators and people, Cyber, Andres, the pop culture guy who you didn't get to meet tonight because he's off. But hopefully you'll get to meet him in the future since he's our buddy. And he's great. We're all very different and we have different tastes. And, Cyber's more of a movie guy. I really love doing the TV, the episodical television myself. I love doing it. I think it's great. I feel like, every episode, every live, every, show or whatever, when you're doing a whole, especially a 12 episode series, like Andor, every part of it, every episode is like a piece, of a story in a way, when you get all the recaps together, you know what I mean? You end up with that, your whole season of shows, and I love that aspect of it. It's a lot of fun.
No, your passion comes through, man. For sure.
Well, we love sharing it with other creators and having people on as guests and all that kind of stuff, I don't know how much you guys do as far as collaboration goes on your channel. I know a lot of creators, that, are 2, 3, 3 people teams. A lot of times won't even have a lot of guests on, and that's understandable. You know what I mean? If you have your show and it works with 3 people, then that's what works, anyways, again, thanks for coming on, Mark. I appreciate it. Folks, thank you very much for, hopefully enjoying our coverage of Andor and what we do with Star Wars. Cyber, great job tonight moderating, sir. You are wonderful, sir. Mark, you're wonderful, sir. Great Star Wars, Rebels, lore, talk, and shit like that tonight. I loved it. It was definitely better than Chlamydia, without question. Not that I would know. But anyways, folks, we appreciate you very much for supporting the MCU'S Bleeding Edge. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Those of us who catch us in audio form, have a wonderful whatever the fuck it is, wherever you're at. And we will see you on the next one. Peace. Which will be